Ilya from ToleratedCinematics.com, and today I will be showing you how to create a nice force shield in Adobe After Effects, like in our short film from Fantastic Beasts. So you will be able to download this footage with the link in the description so you can follow along with this tutorial on the same footage. So import the footage and make a new composition, so drag it right here and then you will have your footage here. Okay, so I will change my resolution back to full so I have a nice clear view. We have a full HD project file to work with, so let's get started. The first thing that I will do is actually just quickly rename my composition. So I will click here, rename the composition to main comp, just so I have some overview. And then I will go to a new composition and create a new one and rename this to fractal field. Okay. I'm going to make it square, so I'm going to make it 1920 by 1920. Doesn't really matter that much, and I will click OK. We'll actually make it long enough. So let's see. Well, actually, it's the same length of my clip, so I will keep it as it is. Alright, so now we have a square composition. We'll create a new solid in there, and also rename this to fractal noise this time, and click OK. And then, of course, we're going to apply the famous effect fractal noise. So let's go here in Effects, Noise and Grain, and add the fractal noise, and we're going to change our type to a dynamic progressive, and then go into the transform and the brightness and contrast. Let's up our contrast a little bit and maybe change the brightness down a little bit. Let's see how it looks inverted, so you can always check this on. I actually like it inverted a little bit more, so I will increase my brightness so we don't have these very dark spots, and maybe lower my contrast again. So I will go to my project manager, and actually from 8-bit I'm going to change the composition to a 32-bit and make this sRGB in linearized workspace. The reason why I'm doing this is not going to be explained in this video. Definitely look up why you should go linearized workspace. This is a quite a standard in the VFX industry, and you can see it immediately changes your composition because you're actually working with linear types. So I'm going to change this back so it looks kind of like what we had before, so lower. I'm going to keep it around here, and alright, I think this will do for now. Then for the complexity, we can change this to something like 12, so we have a little bit more detail in there. It doesn't really matter that much, and then we can play with the scale. So let's see, I will scale it down actually and make it somewhere around 50 for now, and then we're also going to offset our turbulence. So what I will do is go to the beginning of my timeline, click on the stopwatch, go to the end, and then I'm going to offset it. Well, actually I want to make it go to the left, so let's do it like that. And now we will have an animation going like this. And then we also want to animate our evolution, of course. So I'm going to alt click on this stopwatch and write something like time times to 50. That's going to just make a nice animation in our fractal noise like so. Okay, so our fractal noise is kind of basically set up. Let's go back to our main comp and go to the project manager and apply this composition into our composition right here. So we have it like so. I'm going to search for an effect called CC sphere now, and I'm going to apply that to that composition. So now we have a sphere like so. I'm going to, of course, increase the radius to actually fit like a real shield. And I'm also going into the light right here and also change, well, actually the shading, I'm wrong here. The ambient, I'm going to change this to 100 so we don't have any harsh shadows right here. Diffuse can be 0, and that will fix everything over there. So apart from that, I think it's okay to keep it as it is. We'll change the blending mode to a screen, and let's see how that looks. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Currently, the render is set as full. I only want the inside. And I'm going to reposition this, well actually reposition it right here. I'm not sure why it's not doing that. Okay, there we go. I'm going to reposition my sphere around here, and then I'm also going to make sure that we don't have that seam right here that you can see. So we can do that with an offset, well actually with the rotation. So that's right here. And rotate it in Y, of course, until you don't see that seam. So I'm going to bring it a little bit more back. Now you shouldn't be able to see that seam anymore. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this, and now I will do an outside. So now we will have like a double view of our sphere. If we don't have the inside, you won't see like the background being a little bit better like that. Okay, so I'm going to keep it as it is right now, and what we want to do now is actually color it a little bit. So I'm also going to apply some kind of a blur so we don't have these harsh edges right here. Effect blur and sharpen, and maybe apply a Gaussian blur. Something like 3 or 5 should do. Let's see how that looks. Let's solo this layer. You just want the edges to be a little bit more getting into the environment. Okay, so something like 10 works. Okay, I'm going to copy my blur and paste it on the other fractal noise field, and now we don't have that harsh edge here on the edge. I'm also going to apply some kind of on top right here. I'm going to apply another blur called blur CC vector blur. I just like the look of it, kind of. So if we increase the amount, you'll see something like this. So you can do something like that, or maybe lower it right here, and you can get some really cool results that way. Also play with the different kind of settings. Something like this is going to make it like more depth. Okay, I'm going to keep it at natural actually. I'm going to set it at -70. Okay, something like this. Now we have something like this, which looks kind of nice. We're also going to move our Gaussian blur below that, so we also affect the edges again, and there we go. Okay, so I'm going to apply the same vector blur to the other channel right here, and also make sure that we go back into the fractal field and maybe add a little bit less brightness, so we get more something like this here. So we have some more variation in the colors like so. Okay, I'm going to unsolo this and see what this looks like. Looks pretty cool. Now let's start coloring our sphere a little bit. So I'm going to hold and shift both of these, so we have selected the inside and the outside. I'm going to layer, pre-compose, and I'm going to call this shield effects. Now we have our shield right here. Again, go to mode and add a screen to it. Now I'm going to the effect layer. Well, actually, before we do that, I'm going to duplicate my shield effects, and just one I'm going to uncheck for now, and I'm going to apply my effects here. So I'm going to apply a color correction curves, and I'm going to add a little bit more contrast to my shield, so we see a little bit more variation in there, like so. And then I'm going into the color channels right here. I'm going to apply a little bit more blue kind of colors to my sphere, and also decrease the red, so we get a nice cyan color. And then we're going into the green and add like an S curve, so we get this nice rich contrast that we want, like so. Maybe something like this. And if we're going to uncheck this and check this, you can see that we really do have a really nice shield here. Okay, so now we have our shield. I'm going to pick my pen tool and just draw something like, first of all, I'm going to delete my floor, so just let's see how that looks already. I'm going to press F on the keyboard, subtract my mask, and just increase my feather just a touch, so it's not like going through the floor. We have it on the floor here. It looks quite nice. Now we're going to click on our effects again and add another mask right here, I guess. And then I will create another mask with my pen tool, like right around here, and I will click something like this. And also subtract this mask and just feather this a lot more than the first one, so we have it like fading out. Then you can play around with your your shield to get something more like this. So now we have a nice faded kind of shield effect. Let's see how that looks. And also you can track, of course, your footage if you have moving footage, and then just reposition that shield in there. But let's see what we get. I'm going to let it render out for a second. Okay, so right now we have something different. As you can see, we have our shield and it's actually rotating. This is completely done by the animation of your fractal noise. If you want to move it up, if you don't want it to be moving and you just want like the animation, just edit the evolution. I also did the offset. It's kind of nice, this one. It's like more of a vortex kind of shield, and could look cool as well. Just let's keep it as it is right now. And currently, we also have a duplicate of that shield effects, and the reason why is because we also want some kind of displacement right here, because you can see that it doesn't have any refraction. Like if you put a pencil in a glass of water, you have the optical illusion that it goes a different direction, and this is the same thing that we want to kind of accomplish here in After Effects. So what I will do is create a new adjustment layer, and I will rename this to displacement, and I'm going to apply the effect called displacement map right here. I'm going to apply this to my adjustment layer, and right now you can see that it's actually affecting the whole thing. We want to only apply the shield effects to it, so now it's going to look into that. And let's just solo our background layer so we can actually focus on that together with the adjustment layer, and let's just crank this up. Okay, so currently we have something like this, which doesn't look that good, and the reason why is actually because we have the shield effects, and it's only going, well, it's everything that's white is going to be affected one way, and everything that's black is going to be affected another way, and everything that's actually gray is going to stay in the same position. So we're going to click on our shield effects, go to layer, pre-compose this, move all the attributes into a new composition, rename this shield effects displacement. And right here, we're going to do a little bit of touches to actually make it look right. So I'm going to right click here, new, and add a new solid layer. And right here, I'm going to set it at 50. So we have a nice gray, perfect gray color, and I'm going to click OK, put this below your fractal field. So I'm going to set this back to normal. Now we have some more blacks, and we want like a lot of blacks and whites. So we're going to apply a little bit more curves to it. So go to Effect, Color Correction, Curves, and also add more whites and blacks. And now we have something like this, and that's going to affect it a lot nicer. So go back to the main comp, go to the displacement, and just reset our mask for now. And just offset it just a touch. So we can offset it something like so. Also copy these two masks, copy them, go back to that displacement and paste them actually on the same layer. Okay, there we go. So now it's not going to affect the edges right here. It's only going to affect it right here. So you can see that it's already improving how it actually looks. Somewhere around here looks kind of cool. And now if we're going to add this together with the shield effect, we're going to get a nice look. So I'm going to press T on the keyboard for the shield effects right here, and maybe lower the colors just a touch so it's not overwhelming. And then we also want to apply something like a flare right here to my wand here. So I'm going to apply our own flare that we recently made, and it's also available on our website with the link in the description. So I'm going to import that. So right here I will import this, and I'm going to apply this to my composition. Alright, so here we have our flare. I'm going to click on my shield footage, copy this, so Ctrl C, go into my Pro Lens Flare and paste it in here, put it on the bottom right here, right click and make this as a guide layer. And that's just not going to render it out in the composition, but we have it like as a reference. Then we go to the control settings, and I'm going to put my flare around right here actually on this one. Okay, zoom in, let's see how I want it. Do I want it very big, or do I want it actually rather small? So let's see what I can do with it. Maybe something like 30. And of course we can animate it, but I'm not going to animate it for now. Just change the position right here. All right, I'm going to unselect the flare for a second so it's actually in the right spot. Okay. And for the brightness, I'm going to set it a little bit bigger right here. And randomize it just a little bit. Alright, so somewhere around here, I kind of like this one. So we have our flare, change a little bit of the settings until I get the result that I actually wanted. And then we are going back to my main composition, and we should have the flare in there like so. We really get a nice shot. We can actually put this below our displacement so it's actually in the right spot. It's also going to be displaced, so that's going to make it look a little bit better as well. And then apart from that, you can add some particles to it. So you can go new and add a new solid, particles, and search for CC particle world and apply this to that footage from particles. And go into the grid right here and just uncheck the grid. I'm going to also position this on the same spot of my wand here. And for the physics, I'm going to add a little bit more velocity. So I'm going to just solo this for now. And let's see what we have. So of course they're falling down and way too big. So we want them to be explosive. Go into the particle tab, change this to a faded sphere. I'm also going to make them a lot smaller, somewhere around here. Okay. And gravity, I barely want any gravity, so 0.5, well actually 0.05. So I want to change the explosive to direction axis, and that's going to make them to the right. Open up the direction axis and maybe move them, and actually for the gravity, I'm just going to lower this so it goes up, and it's going to like help the shield to generate. So I'm going to make it look like so, and just spawn a lot more of these particles like so. Also toggle the switches and make this motion blur and apply the motion blur for the composition so we get something more like this. And then we're also going to change the color to white for now. And I'm going to apply a CC vector blur. So go to blur and sharpen, CC vector blur, and also increase this right here. And then we get like a nice magic kind of look. We can also go into the producer and maybe lower the radius, especially actually on the Y. So we get something more like this. Maybe also for the X, or actually we can, okay. Let's see, also go to effect and apply a regular Gaussian blur and just put this up on top of your CC vector blur right here. And let's see. Just to smooth everything out. Okay. So now we have a nice kind of magic look to it. And if we're going to uncheck this, well, if we're going to unsolo this, we have our particles right here, and we can reposition them a little bit more to the bottom. So position them right over here. And then I'm going to apply an effect, generate, and add a fill to it. Change the color to a nice blue. Okay, so we have our color of our particles. Make it a little bit more like white. Okay, there we go. So now we have our particles generating our shield. Okay, cool. So now you can play around with the animation. Maybe it's going a little bit too fast. I'm going back into the shield effects, the fractal field actually. Press U on the keyboard and go to the end of my offset. And I'm just going to delete this keyframe and just move it just a touch, something like so. And then another thing that I've actually done is go to the shield effects and duplicate that effect. And I just offsetted the mask a little bit so it's like a little bit thicker on the front. So I'm going to double click on my mask and just move it like so, and then you're going to get like more color on the front of your shield, and it's going to look like it's actually closing it. If we increase the opacity here, we can actually thicken it over there. So press F on the keyboard to lower that feather for our shield, and then it's going to be a little bit more obvious. Okay, you can duplicate it more if you want to. And now we're getting a real shield, so something like so. It looks pretty cool. You can actually lower this right over here so we get a little bit more detail as well. Okay, looking good. Okay, so now we have our shield. One more thing that we could do is add a little bit of smoke so it's like really in the action. What I do for that is just create a new solid layer and add a fractal noise again, and go to effect, noising rain, fractal noise, and then I will click on my evolution. Well, actually in the transform, click on the offset turbulence in the beginning of my timeline. We'll go to the end of my timeline and actually move smoke towards me, so it's actually sucking in a lot of smoke. And let's see if this is going fast enough. So solo this for now. Okay, so this can be a lot faster. We can hold shift, just drag this to the left, and then again preview this a little bit more. Okay, there we go. So this should be fine, and then alt click on the evolution right here and write time times 400. Now we have a fast animation. Maybe times 4000. Okay, that's a little bit too much. Somewhere around 1000. Okay, so now we have the animation. We can increase our contrast a touch and lower the brightness here. I'm also going to change this to a dynamic progressive, and we have our smoke. So I'm going to uncheck this for now, go to toggle the switches and change this to a screen. And as you can see, we have a weird thing going on, and that's because of the linear workflow that we're working on. So I'm going to solo this and actually search for color profile converter, and this is something that helps out sometimes when you're working with a linear workflow. So apply this right here, and then just go to the input profile and select sRGB, and that's going to solve that problem. And now if we are going to uncheck this, we're going to have nice results. So go back here, maybe go into the transform and scale it up a little bit so we have closer to the camera. Smoke, and also play maybe with just the basic, could be a little bit better, and also decrease the complexity a little bit so we get more like thick smoke. And there we go, we have our smoke. Of course you can lower the opacity by a lot, something like so. That's going to just add a little bit more animation to your scene. So if you have any problems with any kind of effect in Adobe After Effects while working linearized, you just use the color profile converter, and that might help out for your problem. So a cool tip right there. I'm going to increase my opacity something like 10 and just re-render this one more time. Alright, so this looks pretty cool. Of course, our flare isn't animated and we can still play around with the animation of our shield. And if you look at my feet, it's looking pretty weird there. You can fix that just going to the displacement and fixing this a little bit. So go right here and maybe just point this up a little bit, and then you won't have that displacement right here. And just on my top body, it's going to make it look a little bit better as well. But apart from that, you can also just select everything and pre-compose this. And then we're going to, well, actually just do the effects comp. And then we can apply something like the wiggle preset that you can also get at the freebies page on our website. If we apply this right here, we can say like a slider frequency of 15 and a amplitude of 15. And then let's preview this, and that's going to add a little bit of a wiggle to our scene. So I'm just going to do it at very low quality so you get the idea. And right here we get like a nice screen shake. Of course you can lower this. Of course you can lower the amplitude and increase the frequency and get a better result that way. But yeah, definitely have a play with the wiggle, and also maybe make our smoke a little bit bigger right here. So let's head in here, press U on the keyboard. Is it this one here? I'm not sure. Yeah, this is the smoke. I'm going to increase my scale to something like 500 or even 1000, and then we get this nice smoke on top of everything. And then to finish it off, we can apply a LUT. So search for apply color LUT, and then if you have LUTs, you can buy, like right here, these are our LUTs that you can buy on our website, or you can use other LUTs. But like right here, I will use the desaturated action, open that up, and we have something like this. And of course we can cut this actually and apply this to a new adjustment layer and just lower the opacity a little bit, and then we get something more like this, because we're working in a linearized workspace, and change this back to full resolution, so we get a nice clean image like so. This is without LUT, with a LUT, and below our LUT now we have something like this, and below our LUT I'm going to apply the color profile converter, set this as RGB. Now we get something like this, which is going to fix our linearized workspace, and then you can lower the opacity right here and get something like this. The only thing that concerns me is the white background right here. I don't really like it. It doesn't fit the scene. So what I will do is open up my effects comp, go just right here we have our footage. I'm going to create a new solid on top of my footage and click and create something like this color. Click OK, and then I will pick my mask tool, my rectangle tool, zoom out, create something like this right here. Press F on the keyboard and just feather it very nicely like so, and then just set this at multiply and you get something like this. Of course you can go and press T on the keyboard and lower this, go back to the main comp, see how that fixes everything right there. We can also click right here and maybe just select this part right here and just press F on the keyboard, subtract it, and then just increase your mask right here. So you get something like this. And if we are going to check this out, we're going to have a little bit more brightness right here. And of course, we can lower the intensity of our LUT, but that's going to make it look great. And apart from that, you can create another adjustment layer and maybe apply a camera lens blur right here. Repeat the edge pixels so we don't have a glitch on the edges right here. And I'm going to mask out the center right here. Subtract it, press F on the keyboard, increase this, and now we get a nice focus right here. And of course lower the radius to something like 5, and that way we're going to get a nicer focus right here, so you can see the background is kind of out of focus. You can of course just shift this a little bit, like position this right here. So the distance actually gets a nice shallow depth of field. Okay. And then one more adjustment layer. I'm going to apply vignette and go to effects, color correction, curves, lower the contrast right here. Double click on the ellipse tool, subtract it as well, press F on the keyboard and increase the edges right here. And now we get something like this. I'm just going to offset my mask a little bit more towards this spot so our focus gets right here. Duplicate it once more, and I'm going to press M on the keyboard and add it again and reset our curves, and then I'm going to increase this right here so we have a little bit more brightness right here, and so we get something like this. And then lastly, we can click on our effects comp and go for a glow and add our perfect glow that you can also download on our website. And then we can get something like so, and of course increase this by a lot, the threshold, and increase the radius. Without glow, with glow, lower this a little bit more. This is without the glow and with the glow, so we can lower this just a little bit more. Maybe holding Control. Okay, just don't overdo it. But in a linear workflow, you can see that our intensity is actually 0, but if we click on it, we have like 007, and it's still actually affecting our glow. So if we're going to check, just deselect our glow, you can see that it's actually doing something. So just keep your glow low, and yeah, you're going to get some better results. So right here we have our final shot, and this is what we came from. So right here we have our final shot, and this is our original one. So a big difference right here. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, give it a like and also subscribe to the channel for more. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.